What would you do for a chance to succeed in life? Will you stomp people? Will you do whatever it takes? What will be the cost? Your soul? If you realize your mistakes along the way to your success, will you manage to forgive and or redeem yourself? This is the story of Price, a property agent. His goal in life is to secure a partnership in the company he works for. It's about his choices, consequences, regrets. The story is not only horror in the traditional sense with monsters and jump scares, it's also atmospheric, creepy, with disturbing imagery and some symbolism. This is the story about people and how we might be the real monster, as a cliche as it sounds. I was thinking by the end of the video to do a spoiler talk about the story, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized there is little to discuss. What I mean is, the most things are explained with few exceptions. My theory for the things happening in the first game can be summarized in a couple of sentences, so I decided to let you experience the game fully blinded. Yeah, this is double review. Both games are short, approximately 2.5 hours each, so I'll try to be mindful of the footage I show, especially the horror parts. However, considering the length, it's inevitable to show something spoilerish. Consider yourself warned. Also, the video is a comparison between the two games, but the gist of it is, they are worth your time. If you are familiar with point-and-click adventure games, you'll feel right at home. The difference is, you can play with keyboard or a controller. My Xbox One worked perfectly fine. However, you need to figure out what every button does. This is a minor inconvenience. The gameplay is simple. You walk left and right on a 2D plane. You can also interact with certain objects in the environment, collect stuff to solve puzzles. The last part is the worst thing about the game. Now, saying that, you might think they are nonsensical or something like that. No, they are just way too easy. I don't think I had more than 3 items at once in my inventory, and this was in the second game. Usually, the stuff you find is being used in the couple of screens you are locked in. The good news is, they all make sense in the world the game takes place in. Never had an issue with any of them. However, there is one in the first game where the solution is found with a bit trial and error. In the game, Price essentially is doing 3 distraints, and on the third one, he is inhaling an unknown substance. He's getting high, which allows him to move faster and to have access where previously there wasn't. It takes more than a couple of tries to know what to do and gets a bit frustrating. One of the things the second game does slightly better than the first is the variety of puzzles. They are not difficult, but at least they are different enough and require more than just put an item in a slot. Oh, don't worry, you'll have plenty of those. There is a minor difference in the gameplay section between the two games. In the second one, you have to hide in scripted moments from a dark and smoky looking monsters. You just get inside a wardrobe, but you have to do it on time and stay there. You should not move until it's gone. This is a small gameplay variation and doesn't play too often, so it doesn't outstay its welcome. The biggest difference between the two games is the tone. They are vastly different. The first is way gorier, have jump scares, well earned by the way, tense and twisted with unexplained events. I see some sense in them after playing Distraint 2, but I'm not sure if I'm right. The theme is about Price paying the price, pun intended, for his decisions, conscious or unconscious. Right in the beginning, he has to take the home of Mrs. Goodwill, a nice elderly widow, because she's in debt. He realizes what he's doing is wrong, but perceives anyway. At that moment, he sees the widow crying and something starts changing in him, but he still continues his soul-destroying journey. This means 2 more distraints. We are seeing through his eyes how he perceived the world, the people around him, the state of his mind. We are often subjected to unexplained events like sudden dripping of blood on the screen. Or flashes of something. You don't know if it's all in his mind, or there is just something wrong around him. And by the way, he's a bit of an ass to other people. There is something wrong with Price. A small spoiler warning. Click to the time on the screen if you want to avoid it. He actually sees someone dragging a bag with something heavy, leaving blood marks on the ground and not reacting at all. This is one of the coolest moments in the game for me. There are more things, but you have to experience them for yourself. I have my thoughts about it, but as I said, I decided not to spoil the plot. There is a reason for all the things he sees, does, and why he is the way he is. This is where Distraint 2 comes into play. The second game picks up where the first left. In terms of atmosphere, it's way more somber. Don't get me wrong, it's still a psychological horror game, but the tone is different. The theme is forgiveness and acceptance. You can see why there is a shift tonally. I can't talk more about it. To explain what Distraint 2 is all about means I have to spoil the ending of the first game, and I don't wanna do that. But trust me, it's still super cool story, albeit a bit sad. The one thing that doesn't change between the two games is the art style. It's pixel art and it reminds me of a PSX era game. All the characters have exaggerated heads, and for some reason I find the games creepier because of this. What stays consistent between the two games is the strong level design in terms of visual variety. Most places in the game are these decaying apartment buildings, ready to fall apart, full of cobwebs, flickering lights and darkness. However, for some, this is all they have. This is their home. Another big difference in the second game is the use of more vibrant colors. It's story related and it makes sense, but it's in spoiler territory. Actually, you revisit a level from the first game, but it feels completely different because of the new color scheme and some new additional rooms to visit. It doesn't feel like just reusing assets. And again, there is a story reason to be there. Speaking of colors, the second game has some sections, they are usually very idyllic, where they feel way warm with relaxing music, where Price feels safe. These changes are what I appreciated the most. Distraint 2 doesn't stray too far from the first, but it offers good experience. The tone is different, visually distinct itself, the music is step up. I still prefer the first game just because it's more scary and gory. Both games have excellent audio, from the music to the effects. I seriously love this noise from the first game. I can describe it as someone dragging a nail on a piece of metal. I find it quite unsettling. As a whole, the ambient music is awesome. It's one of the strengths of both games. Distraint has a few moments when it goes melancholic and sad, and the music contributes to the mood. Most tracks are short, but they are used sparingly, only when needed. Probably the best track from both games is the title screen of the first. I find it simultaneously sad and tense. It set the mood for both games, a deep dive in a troubled mind. But there is a moment in the first game where the track just makes me have goosebumps, even now listening it while writing. That moment, which I won't spoil, hits really close to home. When I write, I always listen to the soundtrack to keep me in the mood. Doing now the same, I realized something. I find Distraint 1 to have more memorable music, but 2 has better quality and more tracks. Both are amazing in their own rights, it's just that the first clicked with me more. The step up in quality from the first game is more than sub. There are some quality of life improvements, like better UI and a run button. But the best one for me is the conversations between characters. In the original game, the text is on the left side, kinda moves away your attention from what's happening on the screen. It's annoying. However, this is fixed in the second game. It's in the middle, such a small thing, but it makes a massive improvement. Distraint 1 and 2 are such a great games. They are both horror but not filled with constant jump scares. The plot is interconnected, so you can't just play one and not the other. The minor annoyances and the easier puzzles aside, both are enjoyable experiences. The story and music are so worth it. The tone is different in both games, the first being gruesome and shocking with unexplained things and events, and the second dives into the backstory of Price, which explains in my opinion a lot of the stuff happening and what made him the man he is today. But I can theorize only. So if you are looking for something different for Halloween, both games are solid choice.